This is the Farm Monitor. For over 50 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by one of the largest general farm organizations, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now here are your hosts, Ray DeLesio and Kenny Bergamy.
2022 slowly coming to a close as we welcome in December and all of you, members of the Kenny B Fan Club, to another edition of the Farm Monitor. Glad you're with us.
Yeah, you're always full of jokes, aren't you? Yes, welcome to the show, and keeping with tradition, it is packed full of good information. Coming up, of course, it's one of Georgia's signature crops, and this time of year, Vidalia growers are hard at work getting ready for the new season. Word has it, we're off to a pretty good start. By now, many of you already have put up a Christmas tree. If not, though, you still have time and plenty of options. John HOLCOMB profiles one farm where buying the tree is only part of the holiday experience.
And then later, inside this building sits a rare gem. In fact, it's one of only two still in operation today in the state of Georgia. Find out what it is and where it's located. These stories and so much more start right now on the Farm Monitor. Let's face it, no produce in Georgia is more recognizable than this sweet Vidalia onion, which is why it's been declared the official state vegetable. And right now, those growers and their crews are hard at work in the field as planting season is currently in full swing. Damon Jones takes a look at the progress and tells you why it's considered one of the most labor-intensive crops.
This will be a common sight for the next couple of months in the small southeastern Georgia area responsible for growing the world-famous Vidalia onion as planting season is officially underway. And so far, so good, as weather has been pretty much ideal.
So far, we've had a pretty good planting season. We've avoided a couple hurricanes this year, and that's been good for us. We didn't have any major rain or bad weather from that, so it's kept us moving pretty much right along on schedule this year. We really need dry weather to be able to get in the fields and get planted. And so as long as we can do that, most of the time we can get in the field and do what we need to on time.
While most onions are directly seeded into the ground by machines, that's not the case for this crop, as the constant threat of weeds requires them to be transplanted by hand. And with more than 10,000 acres being grown every year, that is quite an undertaking.
It's a lot of hand labor. It's a lot of hand labor. So these onion plants are pulled from seed beds by hand, and then they're transplanted into the fields by hand. And then at harvest time, they're harvested by hand, clipped by hand. And then once they make it into the grading sheds, you know, there's a lot of hand labor involved in grading and packing onions. So it's very labor intensive all the way around from beginning to end.
For that reason, finding seasonal labor is vital to the success of this crop, and fortunately that hasn't been a major issue this planting season.
Not any major problems this year to speak of, but I will say it's always on their mind. You know, we never know when things are going to happen, and labor may be short. And I think growers are always looking, or always in the back of their mind, they want to be prepared for that if they can.
Once the crop is in the ground, growers will maintain good management practices by fertilizing and spraying it while also hoping for a lot of mild weather.
Weather is always a concern. There's no way really around it. You don't ever know what you're going to get. So we hope we don't have any extremes in weather, any really hot weather or really cold weather. Too much warm weather we can get a lot of onion growth, a lot of foliage growth, maybe earlier than we want, which could set us up to maybe be more susceptible to freezes or other things like that. That's probably the main thing.
With so much time and effort going into growing this crop each and every year, it's easy to see why there is so much satisfaction that goes into the final product.
We take a lot of pride in it, and we do take pride in the fact that most of our crop is hand planted and hand harvested, and it takes a lot of work. And so they've got a lot to be proud of, as much work as they put into their crop.
Reporting from Toombs County, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
All right, Damon, thanks so much. In other ag news, with the balance of power now looming on Capitol Hill, there's the issue of a lame duck Congress. However, you won't find farmers and ranchers being sympathetic. They still need lawmakers to address several key priorities. Ryan Yates, AFBF Managing Director of Government Affairs, says some of the must-pass items are labor and climate bills, as well as funding for the government.
They're currently operating under a continuing resolution. An item that may be considered is whether or not Congress includes additional disaster funding in that appropriations request. The second kind of must-pass thing is WRDA, the Water Rights Development Act. So WRDA is a 2-year bill. Congress currently is looking at passing the National Defense Authorization Act, and all fingers point to the inclusion of WRDA in the defense bill. The House of Representatives did pass the Workforce Modernization Act. The Senate is looking at whether or not it can tackle a modified version of that labor bill. The other item on the agenda could include House passage of the Growing Climate Solutions Act. Beyond that, we've got 2 trade nominees, both of which have moved out of committee in the Senate, and both are up for final vote for confirmation.
Well, in case you haven't noticed, the time has come to rock around the Christmas tree. And what better way to do that than by rocking around a freshly cut tree grown right here in Georgia. John HOLCOMB reports from a tree farm in Walker County that has plenty to choose from, as well as the perfect environment that's sure to make for great family memories.
To rip off Buddy the Elf, the best way to spread Christmas cheer is by picking out a fresh tree with those you hold dear. And in Northwest Georgia, there's no better place to do that than Ralston Acres Christmas Tree Farm, a family-run operation that was started back in 2008 after an idea was brought to life.
We started out by planting about 450 trees, and we're going to see how that went. That was back in 2008, and those started growing, so we knew we had to grow, since our growth cycle was about 4 years from planting to harvest, that we started planting. So the 4th year we planted, by the 5th year we were able to start harvesting our trees. And so that's sort of a challenge to keep that in play all the time because of the way the trees grow.
Over the years, they've certainly grown their operation, as they now have 5,000 trees growing on their farm that, as you can tell, are full, vibrant, and picture perfect. Something Ralston says takes a lot of hard work, but they take great pride in throughout the year to make sure their customers find a product they love and will enjoy throughout the holiday season.
I would want people to take home a tree like I would take home a tree. When they leave here with a tree tied onto the top of their car or in the back of their truck or on a trailer, I like to think that that's a part of our farm, leaving our farm to go to their home and be set up and be a part of their Christmas experience. And so that's on the back of our minds when we're in the hot sun trimming these trees or planting them or making sure they've got enough fertilized. It's tough. I mean, it's farming, but at the same time, that's sort of the goal that we try for, is to make sure that when people come here that they've got a good product to pick from.
Of course, though, growing beautiful trees is just one part of the puzzle. As Ralston says, the experience is just as important, and is why they've created a place for families to make memories by getting to choose and cut down their own tree.
For a lot of folks, this is the only farm that they will be a part of throughout the year. So we tell everybody that we sell the experience. You know, you can go to these retail lots and buy a tree, but you're not going to get the same experience that you would get coming on a real farm and cutting your own tree. And that's what people like, and that's what keeps people coming back, is the experience.
And for Ralston, that's what it's all about, as he gets to watch families make memories on the farm that they'll cherish for a lifetime.
I like to see the families coming on the farm. They're happy, they're enjoying themselves, you know, and it's sort of contagious. I enjoy myself when they do. And, you know, I think the phone doesn't ring out here unless you want it to. That's another good thing. But I think that's the biggest thing that I get enjoyment out of.
Reporting in Rock Spring for the Farm Monitor, I'm John HOLCOMB.
After the break, a visit to Talbot County and a Georgia icon, a fully operational water-powered grist mill, and the man who's kept the stones grinding for nearly half a century.
Entomology, or the study of insects, affects our daily lives in ways we often cannot see. With a quintillion different insects living on Earth at any given time, their impact on the environment is immeasurable. In the entomology department at the University of Georgia, researchers are working to better understand this incredibly diverse group of organisms. Entomology students work with insects in a variety of fields, whether studying insect genetics, preventing insect-to-human pathogen transmission, learning to safely manage pests on a farm, or finding ways to preserve pollinator species. College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences faculty provides students with a Tier 1 entomology education thanks to the department's multidisciplinary research and outreach backgrounds. Coupled with multiple degree options, hands-on research experiences, and individual attention from faculty, UGA entomology students have endless opportunities to learn. At CAES, we are protecting pollinators that make our food crops available worldwide. We are promoting agricultural biodiversity to alleviate outbreaks that threaten our food and fiber. We are restoring ecosystems by rehabilitating areas damaged by insect infestation. We are protecting human health by reducing the number of pathogens transmitted by insects. Our focus on insect conservation, crop protection, and human health spans beyond the classroom, with students participating in outreach and education opportunities throughout the community. We have highly ranked graduate programs for students who want to take their existing degrees to the next level. And while our reach is wide, our department is tight-knit. Students learn from each other and push each other towards success. At CAES, students work side by side with internationally recognized faculty who are performing cutting-edge research in a variety of areas. As a result, our students graduate as top competitors in their field, ready to become leaders and improve our world. Join us as we commit to understanding the tiniest creatures with an outsized impact on our world.
Deep in the heart of Talbot County sits an agricultural mecca, a symbol of the way things used to be, something that requires more than just a little bit of effort from human hands. That agricultural mecca, Fielder's Mill in Junction City, one of only 2 water-powered grist mills in Georgia that are still operational. And the man who runs it, well, he's a throwback also, but in a good way. If grist mills could talk, this one would have a library full of stories. And no doubt, many of them would include Mike Buckner. Mike grew up on this property, and from an early age, knew what he wanted to do in life.
I have been running the mill for 55 years. Started when I was 14. I was, at that stage of my life, I was ready to make a little money, and my grandfather had died, and my grandmother was running the mill, and I decided if she'd let me run it, then I'd take over. There's been a mill here since 1840, and this is on the Patchalaggy Creek, which means pigeon roost in the Creek Indian terminology. But there's been a mill here since 1840. It was known as the John Downs Mill at that time, and my family, the Fielders, came in about 1890 and took over. During my college years down at ABAC, I would come home to run the grist mill, and we would have on a Saturday morning maybe 30, 40 people or vehicles backed up waiting to get a bushel or 2 bushels of corn ground. Today that's all past, that generation is gone, and we have 3 or 4 a year show up with corn to grind.
Why is that, Mike?
It's just that all the small farms are gone. There's nobody left around in this area growing small patches, small farms like we had at that time.
One of the many reasons why Mike and his wife Debbie have gone to great lengths to preserve the mill and the 5,000 acres that surround it. For example, each year in early November, they host Harvest Days in Old Talbot, a festival dedicated to the sights, sounds, and smells of a bygone era. The mill itself, still powered by water, and the actual stones, original. Yes, over 90 years old and still going strong. Now sure, there are the minor fixes from time to time, but if that's what it takes to keep it going, then so be it, says Mike. He also takes no shortcuts when packaging the cornmeal, grits, or flour. The logo you see on the bags, printed on this.
We added the printing press because we needed to print the meal bags. When there was a need for paper bags for the meal route, we had to have printed bags, and so we added a printing press.
But you do realize, since that time, there's electronic wonders that you could put the bag through.
Oh yeah, but the fun is the hand-fed press. You know, the thought of getting your hand caught. You know, you got to be quick.
Is that what makes you keep coming down here every day, Mike?
Oh yeah.
Just because of the old stuff.
Yes.
Because of the old way of life.
The old way of life is simpler, and it's amazing that most of this equipment is over 100 years old, much older, but it's still operational. And we live in a society, a throwaway, dispensable society, where if it's 20 years old, it's outdated. They bring in the grain. A lot of times the corn comes on the cob, but we have a sheller. We can actually shell the corn for them, and then we can run it through a cleaner. My granddaddy in 1948 with electricity built an electric cleaner to sift the trash of weed seed out of the grain, and then it takes it upstairs by a belted conveyor upstairs and to a pipe over to the millstone. The millstone that you see turning, it weighs about a ton, and it spins about 350 RPM, and this grain actually lubricates the two stones. The bottom stone is stationary, but as the corn or wheat is fed down through it, the stones are so close together they would actually be grinding rock against rock if it weren't for the grain. And then we have a meal box, and that as the centrifugal force of the stone turns, it brings the ground flour or meal around to an opening where it comes into a box where we can bag it at that point.
Like I said, the way things used to be. Impressive, yes. But it's not the only piece of history on the property. Just a few feet from the mill sits Mike's other prized possession, good old engine number 6.
We created this museum because we already had so many artifacts in place. And I said I'd like to develop it more into an agricultural museum dating from the 1840s to 1940s, our period of time. And the locomotive in the track is depicting a logging railroad. Our locomotive is a Georgia locomotive built in Marietta, Georgia by the Glover family. They built about 200 locomotives for the mining and forest industry, and those locomotives were dispensed and sold all over the world. But this is the only surviving Glover locomotive that we know of. When you grow up on a place like this and you pick up the stones that the Indians carried and you're looking for artifacts, it becomes part of you, and you can't leave it. It's just part of you. My dad told me a few days before he died, we were here at the mill, and he said, do you realize the first time I saw your mother, she was making mud pies down below the dam here. And that I had never heard that story before, so it meant a lot. But yes, my grandfather, my mother, and of course myself grew up here, and it's just part of me.
Only bad part about that story, I did not get to drive the train. I feel cheated. Just kidding, Mike. Well, hey, we certainly don't want to cheat our viewers out of anything, so if you missed any part of the story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. That's the Farm Monitor. Up next, the incredible heartfelt look at Donaldson Dairy in Vidalia, Georgia. How farming and faith go hand in hand for the Newberry family.
I'm here today because of the opportunity that my dad gave me to be a part of Donaldson Dairy. My grandparents bought this place. It adjoins the original home place where it all started 4 generations ago. When they moved here, they began working with registered cattle, registered Holsteins. My dad joined in '74. My uncle later joined the partnership. And in '98, My dad offered me a third of the partnership to stay here and farm with him. Being a grazing operation where cows are out on pasture all day, during the summer it's, make hay when the sun's shining. And of course, when my great-grandfather started, it was milking in a flat barn and a stanchion barn, and they were toting milk to town in 10-gallon cans. And so the Holstein was definitely the cow that could put the most milk in the tank or in the cans, either way you want to look at it. My grandfather, when he brought the farm to our current location, they really got into improving genetics and enjoyed showing and continued to work along those lines. A lot of times we look at value as a dollar amount. Why that's important. The value of the registered Holsteins, for me, has been more than a dollar bill. It's been about the relationships. It's been about the people. So the paper has increased value to my cows, but it's also given value to me and to my family and to the friendships that we've made. It's not just the marketing side of it, where people know what they're getting on that paper, but really the value of friendships that we created through the black and white cow. In January, I was actually on part of the farm, and God had kind of stirred in my heart again that, I want you to do more than milk cows, and went on and pastored a small church out in the country. When God called me back closer to home to Calvary Baptist Church, that's where me and my family have been currently serving. We average around 85 people on Sunday morning worship. Just a really good group of people that love the Lord and enjoy one another's friendship and fellowship, and God's been doing some amazing things there for us. I think a lot of it's been about being there for people in times of their life when it seems like the world is crumbling. And so I've enjoyed my time to be able to help people grow. We benefit because people show up. You don't call, you don't ask, they show up. That's part of who we are as Holstein breeders, as dairymen, and that's one of the benefits that you get is when you need something, people know you need it and show up at the right time. I really believe that the Holstein Association is going to continue to help dairymen thrive in the future just through the data collected from years of great breeders before me and making not only the Holstein cow the world's most perfect cow, but through that data and through those genetics, I believe that the association is preparing us well for the future and what lies ahead.
Our thanks to Holstein Association USA for that. Now, before we go, a friendly reminder that for all the latest ag news regarding food, recipes, and what's happening on Georgia farms, be sure you check out all of our social media platforms, including farm-monitor.com.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Farm Monitor. Stay safe. Have a great week.